Morning, ladies. It is 11:30 and we are on class 29 today. It's kind of an overcast day here in La Quinta, California, but kind of cozy. I hope you're having a good day where you are. Almost Easter. Last week, just to quickly recap, we talked about discipline and the three things we want to avoid when we are disciplining our children. One is vengeance, anger, or self is involved. We do not want to have that when we are disciplining our children. And we talked about praising our children, and I put up a 66 ways to praise your child, and we talked about rewards. Now, the other side of discipline is, what do we do when there's disobedience? And disobedience is always unacceptable behavior, and it's always chastise, i.e. spanking. I'm going to explain, don't turn off your minds yet, because I'm going to explain something. It takes great time and effort and an awake mother to know when something is blatant disobedience or when you just need to correct. For instance, like with your toddler, and we don't do any spanking before about 3 years old. When our child disobeys, we spank the hand and say no. And God has given us something wonderful with our children. If we have loved them, they want our approval, and God uses that. So, I want to tell you first, an over-disciplined child or an under-disciplined child have the same result. They get discouraged. We need to remember that chastening is part of discipline. So watch yourself. If you have anger, real anger, get rid of it. Tell your child, go in the bedroom, I'll be with you in a minute. And get on your knees and say, what's going on with me, God? If you're angry or vengeful, you don't go into the room like a hurricane. You don't do that. That's not discipline. That's your problem. And your child will not receive it. They will rebel against it. Or if self is involved. So please, please follow that instruction and pay attention to yourself. That's why this is about your growth with the Lord. And then out of your growth with the Lord, you have self-control, and you can put aside your issue, go in and deal calmly with your child. Second, consistency. You must be consistent. And I know there are times when you're tired or sick, or you just got to lay down and rest on the sofa and watch something, and something happens. That's why I told you naps are very important too. So you have a break and they have a break. There are promises that you can claim. Isaiah 40:29 says that he gives strength to the weary. Isaiah 40:31, they that wait upon the Lord, meaning pray, shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall walk and not be they shall run and not be weary, walk and not faint. So God's word is your empowerment. Okay, the phone is a great time when the children are going to disobey. You excuse yourself or get off the phone and say, I'll be with you, or I'll call you back. And then you take care of that problem with your child. If your child decides to act up in the store and throw a tantrum, you lean down, whisper in the ear, if you don't stop that right now, I'm going to take you out to the car. And they will know what that means. And then if they don't stop it, pick them up, take them out to the car, and you either discipline them in the car if there's no one around, or drive somewhere where there's privacy. And if you're driving in the car, I'm going to tell you something. I always kept something like a paint stir stick. I got a lot of them. And I would put one in the visor. I had them in the one in the kitchen, maybe one in the bedroom. And that just stings, but it doesn't do damage. You don't want to do damage, but you want it. You want them to feel the pain of it. Or you could get a little tiny, thin little switch off a tree Not anything with, little branch things on it to hurt them. You just want to sting. You want it to hurt. And I'm going to tell you something. You have to know each child. My oldest was very sensitive, so probably 1 or 2 little swats. And when they were like, in diapers, or no, they weren't in diapers because it was about 3. I'd take the training pants down or pull their pant down, put them over my lap, and whop once, maybe twice, with Jeff or Natalie. With my third, he would stiffen up, and usually 3 to 4, and then he would fall into my arms, and I knew he got the message, and then I would comfort him. We're going to go all through this in the next few lessons. So please don't turn a deaf ear to this. The world teaches you time out in the corner. God doesn't do that with you, and I'm going to give you verses to prove it to you. Okay, remember, there's nothing more important than disciplining your child. It depends on how their life turns out if you have disciplined them. And I'm going to share verses to explain that. And the biggest thing is recognizing disobedience with your child when it happens. And when I took this class, Shirley Price, she mentioned something. She was talking to a woman, and the woman had 6 children. Now, we know not to leave our children in the car when we go into the store, even if it's a quick run in. We know that now, but she didn't know that back then in her day. But listen to the story. The woman said, I told all 6 children, I'm just going in real quick, and you wait in the car. So she went into the store, she was checking out, and 5 of the 6 came out, 1 stayed in. And she asked Shirley, she said, Shirley, how do I reward the one for obeying me and not cause jealousy with the other 5? And Shirley said, that's not your problem. You're looking at it wrong. You should be disciplining the 5 who disobeyed, not worrying about their feelings because they have disobeyed you. So that's the key here. Always ask God, open my eyes, God. Just open the eyes of my heart, open my ears, open me to hear your voice and to watch and pay attention. Okay, we know, I've touched on this before, disciplining our children is a basic need they have that you give them. When God disciplines me, I know I'm his child. It hurts and it doesn't feel good at that time, but it provides security and trains them. Afterwards, it yields the perfect fruit of righteousness. Okay, let me give you some verses. Proverbs 19:18. Chasten thy son or daughter while there is hope, and do not cause him to die. An undisciplined child is uncontrolled, and they can get into much danger and damage by being undisciplined and not self-controlled. Proverbs 22:15. Foolishness is bound up in the heart of a child, but the rod of discipline will remove it far from him. Proverbs 23:14 and 15. Do not hold back discipline from the child. Although you beat him, this is not beat. It means to slap or to strike, and not in anger. Remember that. Though you beat him with the rod, he will not die. So remember, this is not beating where you leave welts all over him. That is anger or vengeance, or self is in the way. We're talking about a controlled discipline that you're doing. And Proverbs 29:15 and 17. The rod and reproof give wisdom, but a child who gets his own way brings shame to the mother. To who? To you and I. Because it falls on us to correct and discipline. It says, correct your son and he will give you comfort. He will delight your soul. Never, never, women, slap the face. That's not discipline. That's you getting involved. Self is involved, or anger or vengeance. The face is who we are. It represents us. Don't slap their face. This behind was made padded for that instruction. Okay, 2 admonitions I want to give you. Ephesians 6:4, it says, fathers, do not provoke your children to anger, but bring them up in the discipline or admonition of the Lord. That means the instruction of the Lord. Colossians 3:21, fathers, do not exasperate your children that they may not lose hope. You see, when my husband left me and he got, when I had them, I did the discipline the way I always did. But they were older, so I had to use other means. Teenagers will go into that. And you only discipline them through spanking till they're about 7 years old. So you have a window of about 3 to 7. But my husband got violently angry, and my son, when he came to live with me full time, my youngest, he told me some of the things, and I thought, no wonder my son became so rebellious and angry. See, it provokes the child to great anger. A child needs to be disciplined, but the right way. And they need to learn self-control, and they learn it through obedience. A self-controlled child is a happy child. And remember, it's as hard for your child to be obedient, ladies, as it is for us to be submissive to our husbands. That will make you have empathy for training and teaching and disciplining your child. And when do you teach or discipline your children? When they're young. Now, if you haven't done that and you're just learning this and you have older children, it's never too late. God is a God of restoration. Don't get tired with that child that is a discipline problem. They need you the most, and they will thank you for it one day. They really will, because you are loving them. Love is both the kindness and goodness, but it's also training and disciplining, spanking to make them fear disobedience. And if you are not disciplined, 9 out of 10 times your children won't be disciplined. And if you aren't, ask God to help you be disciplined. Ask Him to discipline you, and then yield to that discipline. He will use hard situations. He will use friends. He will use husband, circumstances, your job. And you will go through that process. No child of God's goes without discipline. So this week I will pray for you that this hard thing, and if you have been abused, I want to tell you, or you get an abused child, just remember, go little at a time, and you pray over that child, that hurt that abusive parent caused, God would heal that. It doesn't mean you withhold discipline, but God will guide you and show you and train you how to discipline that child if you're adopting or fostering. So I just will encourage you to go to God. And if you've never disciplined your child this way, please let God show you. These verses speak of it. And you will not be disappointed because you have loved that child. And when you're displeased, that child looks to you for everything. That child will want to please you. And if you have some child that you've adopted or fostering, you may not go into the discipline with spanking just at the beginning. You may have to work into that if the child is very small and has been abused. And your voice is a very good thing to monitor. You don't want to discipline and have your voice go crazy on the child. You calm down. Remember, tell the child, go in the bedroom. The discipline shouldn't be a shaking thing where the child is shaking in the bedroom from fear. No, God doesn't want you to do that. He doesn't do that, come raging at you. God is gentle and humble of heart, and that's how you should be. So I will pray for you this week. I love you, and I encourage you. Meditate on these verses and ask God. God bless you. I love you. Have a good week.